In the depths of winter, I finally learned that within me there lay an invincible summer. Albert Camus. Welcome to the Dreaming Girl podcast. Here we talk about spirituality, self-development and how to live our best, most authentic lives. I'm Holly, thank you for joining me and I hope you enjoy this episode. I'm in my final semester at university, which comes with a lot of excitement and nerves and nostalgia and a lot of overwhelm. Overwhelm over my grades and my dissertation and uni ending and trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. The more I talk about it, the more overwhelmed I feel, so this is a good place to start this podcast. The feeling of overwhelm is something so many of us will experience or have experienced in the past, so I thought we could talk about how to deal with it. Overwhelm can come in all sorts of different flavours. Over having too much to do, or too much you want to do, or taking on too much. It can be sensory overwhelm or feeling too much all at once. Sometimes we can feel overwhelmed for no apparent reason, but it ends up ruining your day anyway. Currently, like I said, I'm a little overwhelmed by how much of my dissertation I have to write, my final grades, and what the hell I'm going to do after I graduate in 6 months' time. So I made this list for myself and thought I'd share here. Here's my tips to get us all through overwhelm. My first tip is to accept where you're at when it comes to feeling overwhelmed. Now this is a good place to start because it's very, very easy to fall into more overwhelm because you feel so overwhelmed. What I mean is the more we fight against a feeling or ruminate over it, the larger it becomes in our lives and in our energy fields. The more we say things like, oh my god, I'm so overwhelmed, I feel so terrible, I'll never get this done, the more energy we put into that and the more overwhelmed the more overwhelmed we feel at being overwhelmed. What we focus on expands, so accept that this is how you're feeling right now, knowing you won't always feel like this. But from that point, you can have more mental energy to working on getting out of the overwhelm you find yourself in. My next tip is very similar to the first and they go hand in hand, but the second one is to find the calm centre. Clear your mind and energy so you can think clearly and figure your way out of how you're feeling. I'm doing meditation teacher training just now, so of course I am including breath work and meditation onto this list. When we get overwhelmed, we get worked up and we start to feel it in our body. Your mind starts racing and so does your heart, and there may be a sense that the world is starting to close in or is bubbling up, everything's bubbling up to the surface. I find from my experience that the feeling of overwhelm is a lot like the feeling of anxiety or panic. Sometimes it can manifest as fatigue and wanting to give up and crawl into bed and never leave and just lay there until your problems have gone away. But it won't until we deal with it. So I invite you to take a few deep breaths with me now. So breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. One more. Breathe in and breathe out. Let go of everything else going on in your life as you focus on your breath, allowing calm to wash over you. When there's too much going on in our heads or in our lives, we can trust our breath to bring us back into balance. It is with us until the day we die as our most trusted companion. And from this place of calm is a great place to start taking action from. Leading me to my third tip. Remove yourself from the situation at hand, whether physically, mentally, or energetically. This is really good for sensory overwhelm if you're starting to feel a bit panicky, which is, I find that my anxiety almost always makes me feel overwhelmed, so that's a really good tip. Or unnecessary additional stress, it's things we don't need to be doing. If you are out and about and start to feel overwhelmed or panicky, please remove yourself from that situation As someone who has experienced many a public breakdown and many a public anxiety attack, the best thing you can do for yourself is take yourself somewhere private and quiet to reevaluate and rejuvenate, and give yourself a pep talk in the mirror. Even if it's simply the bathroom, to do some breathing exercises before you go out and try again. I was at an event last year, about this time last year, and I didn't know anyone there, and it was a talk, and I thought I could just go straight into the talk, but no, there was a networking thing going on, and I was so anxious. I'd just been on the train for an hour, walked for a busy city. I was not wanting to talk to anyone, so I took myself to the bathroom, I put on more lipstick, and I just talked to myself there and tried to build myself up into going back out and doing it, and I did. It was still awkward, and I mean, I felt like I was the most awkward person in the world having those conversations, but I did it, and it's all because I took myself out of that situation and gave myself time to breathe and hype myself back up, and it was all fine. I survived. I'm here. You are not any less for missing out on something or feeling too overwhelmed to attend an event. I have spent too much time of my life beating myself up for things I couldn't do when my social anxiety and therefore feelings of overwhelm were at their highest. It didn't do me any good, but being compassionate to myself did. If you're feeling overwhelmed about something that you can't control, maybe the outcome of an interview or, like me just now, a grade that won't be released for weeks, remove your attention from it. You can't control what will happen, and you'll only feel worse by ruminating on it. Well, we all do this differently, but when I know I need to energetically and mentally remove myself from a situation, I usually turn to Brooklyn Nine-Nine or Adam Driver interviews or funny YouTube videos. Things are good, things I know will make me feel good. Putting our attention onto something else, ideally something uplifting, makes us realise how small the problem is. Like my example of the grade, when I feel overwhelmed about how probably badly I've done on this grade, there's no use in me just thinking about it and beating myself up about it, so remove my attention from it and put it onto something better. My next tip is one of my favourite things to do in the entire world: journal out your feelings. I'm a massive fan of journaling. In fact, it's probably my second biggest habit other than reading. I want you to ask yourself when you journal, what is making you feel this way? What can you do about it? How can you make yourself feel better? And how will you feel after you're on the other side of overwhelm? Also ask yourself, when have you felt this way before, and how did you get through it? By thinking back on when we felt this way before, the problem feels smaller, especially when you think of how you got through it. It's a reminder that yes, you got through it, you can do it, and you will again. When it comes to journaling about why you feel so overwhelmed, my tip is to this can be difficult with this question, but not ruminate too much on the bad stuff. Be very pragmatic. List things that are going on in your life, and if you're not sure about what's causing this feeling, just almost give yourself like a life check, like how are you doing in your different areas of your life, whether socially or relationally, academically, career-wise. What is going on that is that cog in the machine that is making you feel overwhelmed and like you can't do something, and a bit just like the world is becoming too much? Once you've done this journaling exercise, you have a reason for why you're feeling this way. I want to say encyclopedia for some reason, but that's not the right word. You have like a descriptor of what you're feeling, how you got through it last time, knowing that you got through it last time, and what's causing it, which is, when you know it, you can get through it. Tip number 5. Reach out for support. Someone who truly cares and wants to help you. You have more people in your life who want to help you than you realise. I know when you're in a kind of bad headspace, you have too much to do, you're feeling just overwhelmed by life, it can be very easy to feel very, very lonely. But you do have people who want to help, who want to support, who want to sit with you and make an action plan. Now, this might just be me, but try and pick someone who won't try to fix all your problems for you, who won't do it in a kind of saviour way, because I feel like, maybe this is just me, but I can get my back up when I go to someone for support and advice and they immediately try to just bulldoze and solve all my problems and say the stuff that isn't going to help me. Things like, just do it, just get it over with. It's very counterproductive. But that might just be me though. I do tend to get a bit defensive, which is probably my own fault. We are social creatures and we need other people. Keeping to yourself and trying to suffer through it will not help. It will make you feel alone and honestly more overwhelmed. Having someone you can share your feelings and anxieties with is so crucial to keep you grounded and not feel like you're losing your mind. Someone who creates a safe space for you to feel overwhelmed and feel everything you need to feel so that you can let it go and you can move on and take a plan of action, take all the things you need to do, some things on this list, and help you ease you through overwhelm. Tip number 6 is the one that I feel like is the most obvious one, but no one wants to do it, is to make a plan of action. At some point in dealing with overwhelm, you can't just journal about it, talk your feelings out about it, you actually have to take action. Make a list of everything you've got going on to figure out what to do next. And through feeling it, through feeling your overwhelm, and through journaling about it, figuring out what it is that's making you feel just so maybe claustrophobic or lonely or whatever it is, you then have a launch board from which to take action. Now, break it down into the tiniest bite-sized chunks that you can think of. This is the best way to make a plan of action, to get stuff done. Something so simple that you'll do it right away. Open the Word document and write the title of your essay. Go online, find articles to read for your essay. Doesn't mean you need to read them, but just knowing that they're there. That's the first step. This also involves a lot of self-discipline, which admittedly I haven't always been good at getting myself to take the action that I know I need to take, but hopefully you're a lot better than I am. Maybe I'll make tip number 7 is to cut back where you can. Are you taking on too much that you don't need to? Can you delegate tasks to other people or give up something for a little while as you work on your projects? For me, one of the things I've done while I work on my dissertation and finishing university for the next couple of months and really trying to stay on top of everything is to give up alcohol. And I did it for other reasons too, but that's for a different podcast topic altogether. But I did it because I tend to get hungover no matter how much I drink, which completely knocks me out for the day until it's night time and I'm freaking out about how much time I wasted trying not to throw up or napping my hangover away. I would be getting so overwhelmed, so I cut out the middleman in a way and just cut out alcohol while I finish university. Sometimes we bite off more than we can chew without even realising it. You know, we want to do everything, we want to be Superwoman and Wonder Woman and superheroes, and it's not sustainable. So podcast on self-discipline soon once I figure out how to do it, how to incorporate it more in my life. Stopping and realising the stuff that you're doing, that you've taken on, that you don't need to be, that someone else could be doing, that no one asked you to anyway, you just decided to take it on your own, but it's getting you down. It's really important that you're very honest with yourself and saying, okay, I shouldn't be doing this task at work. No one asked me to do it. It's not my job. I'm doing it because I feel like I have to, in some weird convoluted way. So I think I need to cut that out. My final tip is to take time for you. Self-care is so key. It's such a cliche, but it's so key. We do not want to burn out. So clean, have a bath, read, go for a walk, cook,
These are some of the things that help me. Also working out. When I have too much unused energy, I tend to get a bit sad, so working out was helpful. Even if it's just dancing around my bedroom with the curtains shut to my favourite playlist. Sometimes when you do feel overwhelmed, you don't feel like you have any time at all to take time for yourself. But you do. It's so important. No matter how much you have going on, no matter how close to your deadline you are, you do not want to burn out. Just take like 5-10 minutes, make a cup of tea, be mindful, put everything else out of your mind for those 10 minutes that you drink your cup of tea. You'll feel so much more energized, so much more able to do it because you're filling up your own cup. You'll feel better for it. There might be people who are like, well, you took it on, you have to follow through with it. But if you don't truly need to be doing it and you know that someone else could do it and do it well, give it to someone else who's willing, who wants to take it. Cut back things in your life or cut out things in your life that just aren't serving you anymore, and you'll feel a lot better for it. Well, there you have it. Those are my tips for dealing with overwhelm. Hopefully you found some value in it. I did kind of get rambly. I'm getting really new to this podcasting, so I'm a bit unsure what to say sometimes, feeling a bit awkward, but I'm sure I'll get more comfortable as the weeks go on. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.